morning I woke up and there's a little bit of a crispiness to the air, and it's only going to get colder for the next 3 days. So I'm here at my campsite and I'm about to actually move to another campsite. If you watched my previous video, you already know why I'm doing all of this motion, but I really wanted to take in this campground for just a little while because fall is such a spectacular time here. So I thought, what better thing to do today than just soak in some of the fall and do some of the things that I do to prepare for the cold weather when it comes to my van. So with that said, we're gonna be getting cozy time fine today. And I'm ready for this. I've been looking forward to beating the heat for so long, and finally, now that I have chased fall to this beautiful Missouri park, it is finally time to enjoy the crispness of the air and burrowing up under my covers at night and doing things that remind me of the happier times in year. Now, let me explain. A lot of times when you think about van life, you think about all of the beautiful places that you can go, and you think of all of the really cool stuff that you can do. But pretty often we don't think about the weather that goes along with those. And sometimes that can mean some pretty gnarly temperatures. I have camped in Dimples here when it has been well over 100 degrees. I've also camped in Dimples here when it has been 9 degrees. There are a lot of things that you can do if you put your mind to it, and depending on how you adapt your rig, you can have a lot of fun along the ways. So I've been on this journey so far just wearing a little hoodie at night, putting it over my head to keep myself nice and cozy, and that's pretty much all I've needed. But with the temperatures dropping well into the 30s, we're gonna have to make some changes. See these light blankets? I always use these typically to stay under just so that I can keep nice and cozy. And this is all I've needed for weeks and weeks and weeks now. In fact, I added this gray one because I knew it was going to be a little bit more chilly, and it's a little bit more of a heavy material. In fact, materials like this are great for winter because they have a velvety smooth side on this side, but they have a little bit of weight to the blanket itself. So depending on which side you actually are touching, you could have a very different sensory experience, but this is very cozy. Now again, I usually have a couple of those on my bed anyway because I like to have that snuggliness to it. But whenever the cooler temperatures start coming in, this next trick actually has been saving me for quite some time. Especially in a tiny space like Dimples here, a tiny NV200, there's not a ton of room to put extra blankets whenever you're transitioning from the warm temperatures into the cooler temperatures. So something that I have learned along the way actually can be found on this side right here. To the everyday eye, it just looks like I tuck my blankets in on this side, but in fact, if we move these back just a little bit, you'll notice that I have made into my bed actually some wool blankets. I have 2 wool blankets that always are made into my bed so that I can more easily transition from hot nights to cool nights without having to pull a lot of things in and out. Now, right now, I've been folding these up and placing them on the end every single day when I make my bed, which is what I'm about to do. However, when it's super, super cold outside, I do this a little bit differently too. Instead of folding these up every day, I just leave them spread across my bed so I can scurry under them quickly whenever I have to get into the back at night, especially on the super, super cold and windy days. This will keep that icy coldness from cutting through your body and making you feel like you can't get warm. Something else that I like to do is sometimes do a campfire, but the only problem with the campfire that they don't tell you about when you're planning is that once you walk away from this guy, you immediately are inundated by the cold. That's right, as soon as you walk away. So unless your campfire is super close to your vehicle, that's going to be a big distance to take yourself from the warmth of the fire to fully extinguishing it to getting into your rig. So very often, unless I'm with friends, I usually just don't have a campfire, even though I like the feel of one, even though I like the ability to cook over one. A lot of times that transition Ooh, that's a kicker. So I tend to stray away from these when camping alone. This ends up actually helping me out a little bit in a lot of ways. For one, I'm not having to tend a campfire whenever it's chilly outside and then make sure it's fully extinguished. For two, I don't have to be paranoid that I didn't get it fully extinguished in the night and then constantly be poking my head out of my bed and thus making me cold once again. Did you know that something like this could actually keep you warm? Yep, it can. Now, I have a very nice water bottle where I can heat up water and put it inside, and it has a little sleeve, and then I can put that at the bottom of my bed. But if you don't have one, a bottle like this can basically do the same thing. Now, to make this work, it's super simple. You just boil some water, whether it's over a fire like we just talked about, or through your electric kettle, or on your camp stove. And then you pour that boiling water into a bottle like this. Now, be very careful when you do that because obviously the bottle top is quite small. But after you pour the super hot water in, you're going to cap it after it's been sitting for a few minutes so it can release some of that steam, and then put it in a sock. I know it sounds silly, but if you put it in a sock, it gives you a little bit of a heat barrier, and then you can place it at the bottom of your blankets and it'll keep you cozy. That way, if you can't find an actual like water bottle that you can put under your bed that's like on Amazon or something, you can have this in a pinch, and that is so helpful. On the other side of this, if you happen to be in super hot temperatures, purchasing a 20-ounce soda or water or drink can also help you to keep cool, because what you can do is you can take those drinks that are freshly out of the cooler and sleep with them beside you, and that'll help you regulate your temperature to a cooler side also. So this guy right here, hot, cold, doesn't matter, very helpful. So now let's talk about hot hands. Hot hands are something I have been using for the entire time that I've been traveling. That's almost 6 years now, guys. And I have found that these are so good for helping you get your body temperature to a good, stable, constant instead of being too cold. Now, I will say these come with a little bit of a warning label. If you are using these, make sure you do not have direct skin-to-skin contact. These are best if you're using them inside of something. So, for example, I would take these out and then I could put them between layers of my body, but I want to make sure that I'm not laying on that layer. So I wouldn't want to put that in an area that I'm going to be putting pressure all night. For example, hip pockets, super bad idea. The reason why is because you put a lot of pressure on that particular region when you're laying on your side. And if you fall asleep and you're in this nice cozy bubble, it feels great. But by putting constant pressure on one of these on one concentrated spot, it can burn you. So what you're going to want to do instead is put them in a place that you can move them about a little bit while you're sleeping, or just use them to get warm and then push them to the side and put them in a safe place. Next up come your toesies, and even though I like to sleep without socks on, when it's cold, that's a no-go. So instead, I have these. These are my fluffy, comfy wool sleeping socks. I just picked these up, I believe, from Walmart. They're the Dickies brand, and as you can see, they're nice and fluffy on the inside, and then on the outside, they're a thicker material also. These are great for keeping your toes toasty. If you are a person who is prone to being a bit more cold on your fingers, your toes, or your head, I definitely recommend looking into these kinds of materials to keep you cozy during the cold night drops. These are easy to remove if you start to get too warm, but at the same time provide you a lot of comfort because they are so soft. And so they're going to be a lot better sleep than some of the other things that they have out there. I also recommend finding a hat of some kind if possible with this kind of material, because did you know that you lose most of your heat out of your head? And while I do enjoy just putting on a hoodie like this, on super cold nights, I'll wear a beanie that's made out of something like this, or one that I have knitted, and then I will also wear the hoodie just to keep as much heat in as I possibly can. If you don't have a cozy hat, but you do happen to have some form of fluffy blanket or even a towel, use it instead. Place it on top of your main pillow, and then what this will allow you to do is keep a little bit of the warmth closer to your head region. And this is super handy, especially on super cold nights, even if you do have a beanie of some kind. I use this method pretty frequently just because it does stabilize all of the heat and it allows me to burrow in without feeling like I'm suffocated. This right here has single-handedly changed the way that I sleep as a whole during the cold winters, because I'm a person who otherwise like to pull my covers up over my face, and that's not good. I didn't realize just how much more tired and how much less awake that you would be the next morning by doing that, because it limits the amount of fresh oxygen that is going through your system whenever you cover your face. And I've noticed that on days that I've done that, as a result, I now recognize and realize just how sluggish I feel, or how it's more of a groggy morning start. So by doing this, I get the same effect of the feel of the coziness and the warmth, but I'm not blocking that airway. And that's something that a lot of times we don't think about. Now, I do have several other ways that I also keep warm whenever it gets super, super cold, but this is how I usually start out. I make these small transitional steps, and as the weather is changing like it is right now, I'm preparing slowly for camping during those very cold nights, like the 9-degree nights. Now, whenever I do this, I make sure that these changes are very subtle so that they're accessible to me. But much like this time right now, whenever I'm sharing this video with you, even though the next 3 days are going to be super chilly and cold, the next 4 days after that are supposed to be mild again. So I don't want to fully convert my van for winter mode until I'm ready to experience full-on winter. And even then, I want to have some options for circulating my air and doing things like that should we have a warm day. But this is how I start out always. I just wanted to share this with you, and I wanted to share a few of these beautiful fall views to kind of show you what I'm doing as I'm moving closer and closer to that fun Christmas that just really gets me going in the morning. I hope that you've enjoyed coming along. Remember, guys, we're not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time, and staying cozy is part of that. Till next time, guys. Bye!